Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the show committed to helping you dismantle the destructive mindset programs keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance so you can get out of your own way and play to your potential. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a high-performance hypnotherapist and mindset coach with 16 years of experience helping thousands of individuals like you get unstuck. This podcast features a collection of solo episodes, conversations with scratch and plus handicap golfers, and master classes with top experts in the performance psychology space. The one goal? To help you make playing to your potential a habit. Researchers estimate that 95% of your beliefs are formed before the age of 7. So get this. During this period, your programs around money, success, love, winning, and self-worth were all created. And your beliefs about how worthy, deserving, and capable you believe you are, again, all created before the age of 7, essentially giving you virtually no influence. And everything you have right here, right now, is a byproduct of what you believe you are worthy and capable of at this very moment. You're not necessarily responsible for the collection of beliefs you have, yet you are responsible for doing the work necessary to unlearn and let go of those beliefs that do not serve you, the beliefs that are limiting you and holding you back. And hypnosis is a fast, effective modality to help you do just that. Welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you're tuning in to another episode. When I launched this podcast, we're coming up on a year almost, which is absolutely crazy. I did an episode on all things hypnosis. It was episode 7, but let's be frank. It was a new podcast. There were maybe a couple dozen listeners at that point. And well, now the number of listeners has 100x'd and then some. And it's time to do a much deeper dive into what hypnosis is, perhaps most importantly, what it is not, and start getting to the nitty-gritty, the granular aspects, talking about things such as therapeutic memory reconsolidation, regression versus visualization, talking all things theta brainwaves, neuroplasticity, so that by the end of this episode, you can, more than ever before, feel clear and confident, understanding exactly how hypnosis, this powerful change modality, and when paired with expert mindset coaching, can not only radically change your performance on the golf course, but have a dramatically positive ripple effect into every area of your life. And I'll be honest, I come at this first biased from a professional lens, being a high-performance hypnotherapist, yet I also come at this from a lens of personal experience. The reason I do what it is I do today, that I went on to leave a thriving, great career as a high-performance dietitian, shifting into mindset coaching and hypnotherapy, is because of the personal and profound impact it had on my life. And I'm not going to go all the way into my story, but after coaching for roughly 10 years as a nutrition coach, a dietitian, I took a little detour. I played professional poker for a couple of years. I'm fascinated with the game, still am to this day. And early on in this journey, I felt like I was doing absolutely everything. I was studying relentlessly. I was playing. I had a technical coach. I was learning. I felt like I knew exactly what to do. But when I would sit down at the table, I would consistently encounter these spots, these opportunities where I would default to fear-based, scarcity-laced thinking, taking a passive approach, which is a surefire, fast way to light a lot of money on fire. I felt like I knew what to do, but couldn't pull the trigger, so to speak, and actually take action upon the knowledge I had acquired. So I reached out for help. I hired a mindset coach who happened to be a credentialed hypnotherapist, and I had no clue what hypnosis really was. I'd done some dabbling in guided hypnosis audios, and for me, it really felt like a guided meditation, which, guess what? There's a lot of parallels and overlap, which we'll further discuss today. But this coaching experience, and this coach who I still work with 6+ years later, phenomenal, had a profound impact on my poker career. The stakes and the amount of money I began to play for and I began to win exponentially increased faster than I ever could imagine. I went from being a 1-3 live cash game player to routinely playing 2-5, to routinely playing 5-10, 10-10, on and on. The confidence I felt, the abundance mindset I had shifted into and cultivated, the aggression, the peace, the emotional resiliency, all of those intangible and tangible skills I acquired, I attribute largely to the hypnosis and the mindset coaching work that I did. But what I didn't expect was the indescribable benefit it had on my personal life, on my professional life. Remember, I was still running my nutrition coaching business simultaneously. And I'm a walking testament of how hypnosis and mindset coaching has a positive ripple effect on every area of my life. Every area got better as my self-awareness simultaneously strengthened tenfold once I began working with the mindset coach, using her to go through these hypnotherapy experiences while also practicing self-hypnosis and guided hypnosis every step along the way. And that's why I'm such a big believer, because it's dramatically changed my life. And I want to take today's conversation as an opportunity to really clear up what hypnosis is not, give you far more relatability and familiarity than you may have ever imagined. You're a lot more familiar with the hypnotic state than you probably think you are. And I want to really help deepen your understanding of how it works and the opportunities it may help you overcome should you choose to go down this path. So let's dive in. And of course, the best places to always start is by clarifying what hypnosis is not. You are getting very sleepy. And in just a moment, when I count you down from 3 to 1 and snap my fingers, you will become and cluck like a chicken. 3, 2, 1, cluck. Yeah, it's nothing like that. Hypnosis in our context is absolutely unlike anything you've seen on a cruise ship, in Hollywood, portrayed or reflected in Las Vegas. It is not me assuming control of your mind. It is not brainwashing. It's not me shouting the word sleep at you, making you cluck like a chicken, or dangling a pocket watch in front of you. It's nothing like that. That whole niche of hypnosis, stage hypnotism, if you will, is purely for entertainment purposes, and it is a branch of hypnosis. It's just unlike anything I experience or lead my clients through. So it's important to recognize hypnosis is not what your first thought may be. Hypnosis is a powerful tool for transformation that can literally change the trajectory of your life. Hypnosis is the technique that I use to help entrepreneurs scale to 7- and 8-figure businesses. I used to help poker players score 6- and 7-figure paydays. I used to help golfers play to their potential, take home more tournament trophies, and help everyday business owners, entrepreneurs, and high performers cultivate more confidence, calm, peace, control, and decisiveness so they can fulfill and achieve their highest and biggest goals, dreams, while truly feeling as if they have unlocked and experienced their potential. And the way that I want you to think about hypnosis is as a shortcut. Yeah, a cheat code, if you will. Not for learning, hear me on this, a shortcut to unlearning the emotions, beliefs, and behaviors keeping you stuck. Because hypnosis essentially serves as a tool to unlock direct access to your subconscious mind. And this is a critical element for you to understand because your subconscious mind influences 95% of your behavior. Your subconscious is home to your memories, which we're going to talk more about, to your emotions, which we'll absolutely dive into more, your beliefs, your values, and your habits. Through hypnosis, we can begin to uncover the when, the why, the how in which you learned to think, feel, believe, and behave a certain way. And then do the necessary work to unlearn or upgrade these programs so that now they help you thrive rather than survive. So that begs the question, what exactly is hypnosis? Well, the way that I like to describe hypnosis is short and sweet. In a nutshell, hypnosis is a state of deep relaxation that allows you to access and reshape subconscious beliefs, emotions, and behaviors. There's an intention to create positive change. And for relatability, you can think of hypnosis as a deep guided meditation. And really, what I would add to that perhaps is a deep guided meditation that is intentional in enhancing your sensory experience, bringing in elements of all five senses, really invoking an emotional experience. Now, here's the best part that you may be unfamiliar with. Hypnosis is a natural state of mind. And depending on what time of day it is you're listening to this, you've likely already been in a hypnotic state multiple times. Hypnosis is really, again, it's just a fancy word to say deep relaxation. It's a state characterized by production of a certain type of brainwave. So as you're listening right now, assuming you're not multitasking, you're really focused on this, you're in a fairly relaxed state. You may be producing what are known as alpha brainwaves, slightly relaxed. When you're fully engaged in a conversation, you're producing primarily beta brainwaves. So if you can imagine visually, if I'm holding my arm up, like setting the bar high is beta brain waves. We come down a little lower because we're a little more relaxed. There's alpha brain waves. We go down a little lower. We produce primarily theta brain waves. And below that is delta brain wave production, which is basically we're sleeping. So we're just above sleeping and just below slightly relaxed. That's the sweet spot. Theta brain wave production, the hypnotic state. And it's the same state you are in every morning when you transition from sleeping to waking. It's the same state you're in when you're absolutely lost in a good book or your favorite TV show, when you're intensely focused on a project at work, or when you're immensely present, dare I say, in the zone, in that flow state on the golf course. Those are all examples of the hypnotic state. And I highlight this first and foremost to really make it clear. Hypnosis is a safe, natural state of mind that anybody and everybody has and can experience. A lot of my work, as you can imagine, is on education to help really get you, someone else I may be speaking to understand it's a safe, natural, familiar state. Yes, you can be hypnotized. It's just a state of deep relaxation. And every step of the way, you are awake, alert, conscious, and in control. At this point, we understand what hypnosis is not. You've more clarity about what hypnosis is, how relatable, familiar, safe, and natural it is. Let's talk more about how hypnosis works. So again, we can think about it like a deep, intimate, guided meditation. And for the coaching aspect, it's a one-on-one deep guided meditation, another way to think about it. So hypnosis uses the power of neuroplasticity, which I'll elaborate on in a moment, and intentional time spent in that theta brainwave state. And we can do many wonderful things in this theta brainwave state, such as unblock or release stuck emotions. We can reprogram your operating system, if you will, to let go of limiting beliefs, to diffuse toxic emotions. And ultimately, we're unlearning that which does not serve you so that we can then recalibrate, reprogram your thoughts, your beliefs, your behaviors so that they work for you and they're aligned with the best version of yourself. So let's dig into these two aspects, neuroplasticity and theta brainwaves. And we'll kick things off with neuroplasticity, which is a big fancy word to say your brain has a remarkable ability to rewire, grow, and reorganize itself in response to stimulation of learning and experience. Now, long ago, it was thought that the amount of knowledge and potential we were born with was kind of our cap. We hit our ceiling from day one. We already peaked. We couldn't learn and grow more. Well, fortunately, research, technology advanced, progressed, and we now know this is not the case. If we continue to expose ourselves to new experiences, new ways of thinking, doing, and feeling, our brain creates new pathways, new neural pathways, which essentially serve as efficient routes to execute that behavior. And the more time, the more energy, the more emotion spent experiencing a particular belief or behavior, the more ingrained and efficient it will become. So the big takeaway here is your brain is constantly able to rewire, to reorganize, to grow, change, update, upgrade, if you will, so long as you continue to expose it to new modalities of thinking, feeling, behaving, believing, and experiencing. The challenge that you and me come up against, however, is that when attempting to change how you think, feel, or behave, you're simultaneously coming up against an opponent. And that opponent is none other than that harsh inner critic that resides within your conscious mind. It's the voice that says, what a stupid idea. That'll never work. Why would you even think that? You can't do that. That's foolish. You'll never do that. You don't deserve to do that. That harsh inner critic we all have is a dream killer, is a goal stopper, is a saboteur, to say the least. Well, the good news is that when you are in a deeply relaxed, hypnotic state, you can bypass the critical factor of your conscious mind, that judgmental voice. You can quiet it, sidestep the noise and negativity, which makes it far easier to connect with your subconscious mind, to tap into not only the wealth of creativity and insight, but also begin to connect with the memories, emotions, beliefs, and behaviors, habits, I should say, that reside there. So by using the power of neuroplasticity and repeated exposure to your goals in this hypnotic state, your brain begins to see and feel. This is really the important part. We've got to invoke a feeling experience, emotions, but your brain begins to see and find new opportunities to achieve the change you desire. It begins to facilitate this change on a neural level, a physical structural level, and it begins to cultivate, and this is perhaps most important, a sense of safety in enabling these changes to happen. And I'll come back to safety in a couple of moments here. That all has to do with your subconscious has one objective, one priority, and that's to keep you safe. But again, we'll come back to that. So we talked about neuroplasticity, which again, in short, your brain is capable of change. And when you're in a hypnotic state, we can accelerate the timeline of change. We can collapse the timeline is maybe a better way to phrase that. But let's talk about theta brainwaves, because theta brainwave is really where the magic is at, if you will. You know, there's still, and you may think this too, a woo-woo component of hypnosis. It's like, whoa, that's a little far east, a little out there, dude. I don't know about that. And sometimes people will say, oh, it's magical, it's mind control. And that has a lot to do with the opportunity that resides when you do enter into a theta brainwave state. So this theta brainwave state, again, it's this magical, powerful state of mind. It's the same state, get this, that children spend the vast majority of the time in between ages 0 and 7. And think about a child. Maybe you have a young child in that age range, or you reflect back to your childhood. In that theta brainwave state, children have such vivid imaginations, immense creativity, and they truly feel and believe they are unstoppable, that they can do anything they put their mind to. These children, this age range is directly connected to the power of the subconscious mind. And not only is that incredibly valuable, but in this state, you're highly suggestible. You're open-minded to new perspectives, beliefs, and changes. And like I shared at the beginning of this episode, 95% of your beliefs are formed before the age of 7. And that's incredibly important to understand because you didn't have a direct say in what beliefs you currently have today. And they're affecting your relationship with success, winning, money, love, what you believe you're worthy, deserving, and capable of. And they're not really your fault, but you're the only one who can do something about it. It's your parents. Hate to put all the blame on the parents, but it's your parents, your upbringing, society, forms of entertainment, and your environment during your childhood that influenced the current set of beliefs and operating programs that exist in your subconscious mind. And in turn, remember, we talked about, I think it was episode 65 or 63, whichever episode was all about beliefs. Beliefs are nothing more than a lens through which you see the world. These beliefs that you have serve as a filter that influence the decisions you make and the actions you take. But again, the vast majority of them were formed during childhood. And as you go about childhood, these beliefs and their associated behaviors are practiced repeatedly, reinforcing and strengthening the neural pathways. And they eventually become automatic, unconscious reactions. So without even knowing it, you begin to practice people-pleasing, playing it safe, anxiety, scarcity, fear of failure, perfectionism, overthinking, low self-esteem, self-doubt, procrastination, and all other forms of self-sabotaging behaviors. You begin practicing these at a young age so that they become your normal, familiar, comfortable default ways of thinking, feeling, believing, and behaving. Crazy, right? And all of these are designed, created to keep you safe. They're designed to meet your childhood needs of feeling loved, accepted, connected, validated, and like you belong. These are core human needs, and your subconscious will do whatever is necessary to meet them because, again, your subconscious has one primary goal: to keep you safe. So after decades of thinking a certain way, your brain is essentially hardwired a signature way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And it's the collection of thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that literally forms the blueprint of not only your personality, but your identity. So in reality, you have to begin to unlearn who you are to make the space and create opportunity to step into the person you want to be. And in a weird, funny way, you've been hypnotized your entire life. And the work I do with my clients is to dehypnotize, to start peeling back layers of the onion, pulling one or detangling a strand or multiple strands of yarn, if you will. It's just fascinating. It's a form of deprogramming, a form of unlearning. That is where the opportunity resides. So we can think of hypnosis, or you can think of hypnosis as a safe, effective, and influential path to changing the beliefs that no longer serve you, because it allows you to enter or re-enter the theta brainwave states in which these destructive mindset programs were created. So in turn, you can begin to unlearn and eliminate that which does not serve you and create a collection of beliefs and behaviors that works for you rather than against you. A lot is being discussed. I hope you're taking notes. Fortunately, you can go back and re-listen, or you can check out a written version in a way, some similarities, probably a little more information here. I'll link the recent newsletter I published, The Ultimate Guide to Golf Hypnosis, in the show notes now. But there's a lot going on. And I've alluded to talking about your subconscious. So I'm going to take a step back and then dive all into that. When we think about mindset, it's important to recognize and be able to distinguish that you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Conscious mind is where deliberate thought and awareness reside. Your subconscious, and you can think about this analogous to the structure of an iceberg. Your conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, that which you see and are aware of. Your subconscious is represented by the iceberg beneath the surface, which researchers estimate about 90% of an iceberg structure is beneath the surface. We cannot see it. So your subconscious, as I've mentioned before, is home to your memories, your beliefs, your habits, your values, your fears, your emotions. Your subconscious has one goal. It is to keep you safe. And anytime you begin to step outside of your comfort zone, such as holding a one-shot lead with 3 holes to play, such as being a couple sales away from a record month, a record quarter, or a record year, your subconscious begins to set off alarm bells, raise red flags, danger, danger. You're on the verge of stepping into unknown territory. You're stepping out of your comfort zone. Well, your subconscious reacts by deploying any number of self-sabotaging behaviors to bring you back into your comfort zone, this area that is familiar, comfortable, and predictable, because your subconscious has a deep visceral fear of the unknown. And that's because centuries ago, if you wandered away from your tribe into the unknown, you might have starved to death, or you might have been eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So your subconscious is constantly, tirelessly around the clock working to protect you. This is why you might find yourself feeling stuck in a pattern of 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's because your subconscious deploys these sabotaging behaviors. You've heard me allude to them before as destructive mindset programs. It's a creative collection of beliefs, self-talk, feelings, yes, behaviors, yes. All of these are learned defense mechanisms deployed by your subconscious. And hypnosis gives us an opportunity to not only uncover when you learn to think, feel, believe, and behave a certain way, when this sabotaging defense mechanism was created, it also creates an opportunity to instill a sense of safety, stepping outside your comfort zone, giving your subconscious, in a weird, silly way to think about it, giving your subconscious an opportunity to take a deep breath, to chill the fuck out as you stretch and push a little bit more outside your comfort zone. And that's really, really important because there's a concept out there known as the upper limit problem, also known as fear of success. And we can think about it as a thermostat. You know, when a thermostat is set to 72 and suddenly it is 75 in the environment, it kicks on to cool things down. Well, if we think about this thermostat as your internal belief about what you're deserving, worthy, and capable of, and we think of the temperature in the surrounding environment as the amount of success, money, and love you have, as you start acquiring more success, love, or money beyond what you feel you are deserving, worthy, and capable of, again, red flags, alarm bells go off. Your subconscious will start deploying several defense mechanisms to cool things back down. This happens unconsciously. And you can do some great deep work through a reflective practice, a practice of silence, stillness, and solitude to start uncovering moments in your life where these defense mechanisms have been triggered. These destructive mindset programs have taken over and brought you back into your comfort zone. Hypnosis, specifically one-on-one high-performance hypnotherapy, offers an accelerated path to get to the core of when, why, and how you learned to react a certain way and help you unlearn. Because at the end of the day, the most simplistic way to describe one of the benefits of mindset coaching and hypnotherapy is empowering you with the ability to shift from a state of unconscious reaction to a state of conscious response. Now, aside from the subtle differences in my word choice, unconscious reaction to conscious response, the only difference here is a moment, a pause. But that moment, that pause creates an opportunity for choice. And the way I like to think about it is when you are triggered on or away from the golf course, your mind is hijacked by an emotion. And you can think about it as like a big, strong, negative emotion. Anger, we'll use as an example, steps into the driver's seat of your day and takes command of your decisions and actions. Well, when you're able to create that moment of pause, and when you've done the work to diffuse the charge and intensity of that anger-triggered emotion, what happens is you now have an opportunity to kick anger out of the driver's seat, perhaps kick anger out of the car altogether, reclaim a sense of control of your emotional state, turn down the volume of your emotions, turn back on the logical, critical thinking portion of your brain, and take charge, feeling empowered to make a choice about how to move forward. Now, another aspect of hypnosis that I am absolutely infatuated with, and I think is incredibly misunderstood, is related to the ability to begin diffusing the charge and intensity of emotional reactions. So you heard me use the word trigger earlier. There's no shortage of triggers in your day, things that trigger this unconscious, automated, destructive mindset program that we all have, that's designed to keep us safe, deployed by our subconscious minds. Well, when you are triggered, there is a cascade of emotional energy that begins to bleed into your self-talk, your beliefs, your behaviors, and so on and so forth. Well, what's really important for you to understand is like the derivative of the word emotion is energy in motion. And so many of us experienced a significant event in which we were emotionally ill-equipped to handle, manage, and express said emotion. And what I mean is, let's use a sadly common example. You're 9 years old, your parents go through a divorce. Of course it's hard for that 9-year-old boy or girl. But he or she can't even begin to fully grasp or comprehend the nature, the impact of the situation, both in the present moment and the years down the road. And as a result, that 9-year-old might, in one way, harbor a lot of anger, shame, sadness, resentment, a whole list of emotions that he or she is unequipped or ill-equipped to be able to manage, express, talk about, feel, and release. So this energy, this emotion gets stuck. And this 9-year-old carries that anger, that shame, that resentment, that sadness until they're 19, 29, 39, 49. What I'm getting at, though, is these big emotions are energetically costly, and life is a game of energy. You've heard me say this multiple times on this podcast. Master your energy, master your life. So if you're carrying this emotion with you, you're repressing anger, you're holding on to resentment, you're holding that grudge, you're carrying tremendous amounts of shame, sadness, or guilt. What happens is every single day you wake up with a finite amount of energy. And that means you're diverting a large chunk of that energy to holding on to that big emotion, which means you have very little energy left to do what it is you know you need and want to do to achieve your goal. You don't have an information problem, or a lack of information problem, I should say. You have a mindset problem. Specifically, you have an energy availability problem. So one of the biggest benefits of hypnosis is that we can diffuse those stuck toxic emotions. We can dramatically reduce the intensity, the charge of a reaction when you are inevitably triggered going about your daily life. And the result is an immediate surplus in energy, sense of ease, a sense of effortlessness, finally following through and being able to do what it is you know you need to be doing. And that's one of the most beautiful aspects, because when you can take back that sense of control and have a little bit more ease and lightness in every day, you make better decisions because you stay, as I joke with my 4-month-old, you stay online rather than going offline. Offline is when you're hijacked by that emotion and that destructive mindset program, but you come back online when you're in touch. Not only your intuition, but your logical, critical thinking brain is turned on. Your creative superpowers are much easier to access, and you can problem solve effectively to get to that solution or that desired outcome. So the emotional component here is really important. The other element of hypnosis I think is absolutely critical in your understanding, just to further understand how valuable and effective hypnosis is around the topic or the concept known as memory reconsolidation. Memory reconsolidation is a big fancy concept or word to describe rewiring the emotional association tied to a memory so that it no longer sabotages your present performance. So allow me to use a very relatable example. You can think of it like this. Every time you retrieve a memory, it gets temporarily reloaded into your mind. So think of it this way. Every time you retrieve a memory of missing a 3-foot putt or snap hooking your tee shot out of bounds on the first tee, this gets temporarily reloaded in your conscious mind. And in that moment, it's flexible. You can edit the emotions tied to it before your brain resaves it. Now, here's the kicker. Your unconscious mind is going to register emotions more than facts. So when you are standing on the first tee, the last day of or the only day or the last day of the tournament you're playing, and you're suddenly overwhelmed by all these images and feelings of past opening tee shots you've snap hooked out of bounds, where do you think your mind's going to focus? What do you think your emotional state, your physical state is going to reflect? Consciously, yes, you know it was just one bad hole, and a bad hole is a bad hole, you move on. But unconsciously, your brain is still carrying that emotional imprint of embarrassment, frustration, or pressure, which is why weeks, months, even years later, standing or finding yourself in a similar position triggers that same emotional response. You begin to tighten your grip, you quicken your tempo, and ultimately execute another bad shot. But what if you could dim the intensity of the emotional charge, like adjusting the spotlight, turning things down, so suddenly that charge is far less? That puts you back in the driver's seat of control, able to remain focused and present on this moment, cultivating the body language, the thoughts, or the absence of thoughts that you need as you stand over the ball, about to complete your pre-shot routine and execute the shot you've already visualized and seen in your mind. So hypnosis allows us to safely and effectively re-experience some of these, and I'm going to use this word very loosely, traumatic or very negatively charged memories of our past that ultimately created a belief, behavior, or pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving. And we can go re-experience them to reduce their emotional charge. And the analogy I'll use to help you understand that, it's as if this memory's already been written like a Microsoft Word document. And we're able to open that document, make some edits, remove some emotional charge, and then put it back by hitting save. And suddenly it reads a lot differently. So the next time you find yourself in a similar situation and your mind unconsciously opens up that Microsoft Word document, there's significantly less emotional charge. It's more of a bland read, if you will. So it's far easier to shake off or let go and get back to the task and focus at hand. And hypnosis allows us to do that, to diffuse that emotional charge and ultimately prime you to be in the best mental state possible to play to your potential when you need it most. We've talked about a lot in this conversation. And where I think one of the last places to touch on is getting into the different types of hypnosis. There is guided hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and then working in a one-on-one capacity with a hypnotherapist. And let me be clear, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Yes, you might be guided, but again, you're always in control. You're conscious, awake, alert, in charge every step of the way. Guided hypnosis is like listening to a guided meditation. The only difference you might really note is a guided hypnosis, and this is not always true, might really put more emphasis on evoking an emotional response, getting all of your senses engaged, not just visualizing. And we're going to come back and touch on visualizing in a moment. One-on-one hypnosis or self-hypnosis, is being your own guide, not having those, audible cues. Very, very effective tool that everybody should learn how to develop, a skill, I should say. And then one-on-one hypnosis is obviously giving you that third-party expert perspective to push you where you need to go. And this is the big difference maker, because I should have led with this in the beginning, but when we think hypnosis, many people are conditioned to think visualizing, seeing, feeling, and experiencing what it's like to hoist that club trophy, to make that sale, to earn $1 million, to find the love of your life. And that's very future-oriented. I call it future-paced hypnosis. You're seeing things in the future that have not yet happened and finding ways to grow more familiar and comfortable achieving said goal. Your brain begins to rewire, so it begins to update its filters, its behaviors to move towards that goal. In one-on-one hypnotherapy, there are plenty of elements of this future pacing, this future-oriented visualization. Yet, where a much bigger bang for your buck resides is going backwards. And I've alluded to that all episode. Technical term might be regression here, but you're going backwards. You're regressing to uncover the origin of when you learned to think, feel, believe, or behave a certain way that has now become abundantly clear is counterproductive, limiting, and holding you back. And we do the necessary work to unlearn and let go of that which does not serve you, so that we can create space and ultimately design the collection of thinking, feeling, believing, and behaving that is necessary, that is aligned with this next best version of yourself. So the one-on-one hypnosis, especially when working with me, offers both going backwards and forwards to get the most out of this one-on-one deep guided intimate experience, to make the actual structural changes, to evoke the necessary emotions to make these changes lasting at the deep subconscious level, so we can upgrade what you feel and believe you are worthy, deserving, and capable of, access confidence, access courage, access presence, focus, trust, and belief on demand at the highest degree possible for you, so you can conquer all of your goals. And when it comes to golf, and specifically golf, here's how I have helped dozens and dozens of golfers shoot new lows, dramatically reduce their handicaps, and win multiple tournaments with dozens and dozens of top tens. We do a lot of work, first and foremost, on navigating fear. Fear is normal. We need to cultivate a fearless, aggressive, confident mindset. And we do so by raising the bar, raising the temperature, if you will, of what you believe you are deserving, worthy, and capable of. So we do things to cultivate confidence, to feel it's safe to feel confident, that you're worthy of being confident. We talk about reshaping your relationship with pressure, enhancing emotional resiliency, tapping into a flow state on demand when you need it most, creating an opportunity to find more peace and acceptance, and letting go of the past, emotionally detaching from those moments and memories that no longer serve you. We diffuse those big, stuck, toxic emotions so that you can remain free, present, and in control when you need it most. And I think that's a great place to stop. I thank you so much for listening. I thank you so much for your curiosity, your interest in hypnosis. I can tell you, if you're looking to get a taste of hypnosis, specifically the future-paced, you're looking for a deep guided meditation, if that's how you want to continue to think about it, I've got 6 golf-specific guided audio hypnosis MP3 files. I'll link them below. They're anywhere between either 8 and 10 minutes, or there's a couple that I believe are 14 to 16 minutes. They're excellent to listen to every single day, specifically on the days in which you are playing a round of golf to help you overcome whatever your biggest challenge is. Tee box, driver, short game, chips, approach shots, putting with confidence. You have 6 different options there. And then if you're truly serious about not only elevating your performance on the green, your performance on the course, I should say, but your performance away from the course, in your business, in your family life, or just truly getting out of your own way to become the best version of yourself, there's a link in the show notes below. Set up a call with me. Let's have a mindset coaching discovery call so you can learn even more about how not only hypnosis, but myself mindset coaching can help you get unstuck, out of your own way, and unlock your potential. Thank you so much for listening. Have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. If you haven't left a review, it means the world. 30 seconds, genuine rating, review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are listening to today's episode. Thank you so much. Hit them straight, and we'll catch you in the next episode.